Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie London. Welcome to my channel. I know it's been quite a while since I last made a video, and I just wanted to start off today by saying thank you to all the people who emailed me and tweeted me and messaged me to ask when I'm going to be filming next and saying that you were really enjoying the videos. It really does mean a lot to me, and I appreciate that you're really enjoying the videos. I guess when I started this out I wasn't sure if anyone would really be interested in watching these types of videos, so it does make me very happy to hear that people are actually really getting some value from them, which is the whole reason that I wanted to do them in the first place. So today I'm going to be taking off from where we left off last time. So in the first video I talked a little bit about my process in terms of how much I plan and how much I kind of write by the seat of my pants, as the saying goes. And so today I'm going to be getting into a little bit more detail about the document that I use to actually plan out my books before I sit down to write. So I have a printed version right here. Now I don't print it out normally, I have it on a Word document, but I've recently started using a writing program called Scrivener, and now I'm doing my planning and writing all in a Scrivener document. So that's probably something that I'll talk about in a future video, but I'm still very new to that program and trying to figure things out. So for the moment, what I'm going to be talking about today has historically been done in Word. So when I get ready to plan a new book, I have a document that I use to fill in a lot of my character details, my notes, my planning, and to help me write my synopsis that I need to provide the publisher when I'm trying to contract a book. So what I'm going to do is basically just take you through that document today. If I keep looking down, I apologize, it's because I'm probably reading something off the document that's sitting here. And then anything that I mentioned today, like reference guides, craft books, anything like that, I'll be sure to link them in the description bar below for your convenience. So on the first page of the document, you might recognize two of the covers here. These are my Blaze books in the Dangerous Bachelor series. This planning document is for the fourth book in that series, Mr. Dangerously Sexy, which is going to be out in February next year. And so I start off with the series title at the top. If it's a standalone, I just leave it blank, and then I have the other books underneath here. Usually I will also have some notes there about perhaps who the hero and heroine were in that book, or when the books came out, something like that, just for my reference. I then also use that front page to jot down some title ideas, because often the publishers will come to me and ask if I have any ideas for the title. If this is for a self-pub book, then it's just a bit of a brainstorming area for me. So that's kind of the front page in a bit of a nutshell. The main thing that I do when I'm planning a book is to think about the characters. So in a romance novel, the external plots aren't always as big a focus as they are in some other genres. It does depend on what type of romance you're writing, because if you're writing a suspense book, then the external plot might be a big deal. But the characters, primarily, especially in what I write, which is contemporary and category romance, the characters are really what drive the story. So for me, it's almost more important to really nut the characters out than to actually think about the plot, at least in the first stage of planning a book. So I have basically like a character sheet that I go through when I'm planning my characters for a new story. There are a bunch of these on the internet if you just Google them. I'll try and find some good ones and link them below, but if you just Google like a character sheet, character planning, anything like that, you'll be able to find a bunch of different templates. This document is kind of a mishmash of a whole bunch of different things that I've seen. If I read an article on character development and I like one of the aspects that it talks about there, then I'll kind of include it in. And so this document has kind of grown and grown and grown as I've written more and more books, and then I just update it whenever I want to add something in new or take something out if I find that I'm not really utilizing it. Let's have a look at my heroine. I'm going to take you through the character sheet for her. So my heroine in Mr. Dangerously Sexy, her name is Addison Cobalt. She's 27, and I always start off with a bit of an inspiration picture just because I'm a very visual person. I have a Pinterest board for each of my books because I like to be able to kind of see the characters and to get a bit of a feel for like the mood of the story as well. So here I have the lovely Anna Paquin from True Blood. You might recognize her as my kind of inspiration for this character. Now you definitely don't have to do this. This is just something that works for me, as is everything in this document, so that's maybe a caveat that I should have said at the start. This is just what works for me. It's not the correct way to plan a character or a book, it's just the way that I have found that really enables me to write a kind of consistent and authentic 3D character. You might find a different process works for you, or you might find that not planning at all works for you, and that's totally fine. This is just meant to kind of help people who are wanting a little bit of a guide for how to start going about some of these things, but it's by no means the only or correct way to do it. So the first thing that I do on page 1 is have a bit of a description of the character. So really basic things like their hair color, eye color, how tall they are, what body type they have, what their style of dress is, if their voice has a particular sound or cadence to it. And the reason that I have that written down first is because often I find sometimes when I'm really deep into the point of view of a character halfway through a book, sometimes I forget that stuff. I forget what eye color they have or forget what hair color they have. So I like to have that right up at the front so that I can have it as easy reference point if I do forget that when I'm writing a book. So the next thing that I really like to figure out the character is where they are in life currently. So where do they live, who are their family members, what are their relationships like with their family members. I'm a very family oriented person, so I feel like people's relationships with their family have a very big impact on who they are today. So for Addison, I've got that her father was the person that started the company that she's now the head of, that he's passed away a couple of years ago. They had a very strong relationship and she took his death very hard. So all of that information is going to be important for me representing not only Addison, but also, because the role of the father sort of has something to do with the story, being able to represent that clearly as well. And then I've made a few notes that she's an only child, that she's kind of a lone wolf type person, very independent, and that she had a mother who passed away when she was very young. So she's kind of an orphan now. So I always have that family information listed at the start, and I find that as I go, this document tends to be very fluid. So as I'm writing the story, I will often add in more details as I discover something about the characters while I'm writing. So this is kind of where it goes back to me being a half plotter and half pantser, because I do some of this initial thinking up front, but often it's not until I really dig into the character while I'm writing the book, and often sometimes even towards the end of the book, that I kind of really flesh out some of that extra stuff. So I update this as I go, and then I use it to help me when I'm going through my editing and revision process. So some other basic stuff that I tend to put in this area too is what kind of car they drive, do they have any pets, what sort of house do they live in, where do they live, all of that kind of stuff. Basic information about their life as it stands currently. I also like to put in a couple of points about who the character is today as a person. So I ask questions like, they're the kind of person who would. It might be that they're the sort of person who will bake cupcakes to take to their team at work, or they're the sort of person who would rather stay at home with a good book instead of go to a party. It's something really random, but something that pops into my head that gives me an indication of who the character is. I also ask them what they like about themselves today at the start of the book, and what they would like to change, because I think that that tends to give me a bit of insight into what their arc is going to be, and when we get to that section of the planning later on, that will kind of help me to understand them a little bit better and how they need to change over the course of the book. So that's the basic stuff that I do to start off with a character. The next thing I do is really try to dig into their personality a little bit. So to start that off, I give them 4 traits, 3 negative and 1 positive. And what that really helps me to do is to figure out a bit about how they're going to react in the story, what sort of actions and decisions they might take, and it also helps me when I'm feeling a bit stuck with a character and not sure how they should be dealing with a problem. I kind of come back to this area because it tells me a lot about them. So for example, with Addison in this book, her 3 positive traits are that she's influential, that she's resilient, and that she's confident. So she's a businesswoman. She's the sort of person that is not afraid to go and stand up and speak in front of a room of people. She's really good at getting people to agree with her and to go along with her way of thinking. And she's also had a lot of knocks in her life, and she's very good at kind of picking herself up and dusting herself off. So that's something that I wanted to know about her up front, so that I know how to help her deal with a situation that's going to face her very early in the book. And then for her negative trait, I have put that she's emotionally closed off. And so now I can start to link some of that stuff that's happened with her family into her personality, and so how she's taken her experiences and how that's shaped the way that she's become. Something else that I do that I find the more books I write I'm kind of using less and less, but it really helped me out when I was starting, is that I assign each of my characters, main characters, the hero and heroine, a Myers-Briggs personality type. So I'll leave a link to a website that I use below, which has all of the profiles listed, but basically there are a bunch of different personality types that deal with different sort of aspects of personality, like whether people are introverted or extroverted, whether they sort of take their information and make decisions based on stuff that's external or internal. And you can have a look at the different profiles, and it really gives you a different kind of spectrum of personalities to choose from for your characters. And so what I would often do is read the profile that I think best suits my character, and then take some notes of the stuff that I feel that I really connect with, that I think will really kind of help me reflect the character correctly. So the next section of the planning document is more about their history. So this kind of digs a little bit deeper into the backstory of the character. And so the first section that I deal with is their relationship history. So in a romance novel, I feel that that's a really important thing to know about your character, is what kind of relationships have they had in the past? Have they had any relationships in the past, or have they always been by themselves? Have they had a relationship that's gone really bad and that's affected them in a certain way? Have they had a string of really bad relationships? All of this kind of stuff really helps you to shape how the character is going to deal with the prospect of falling in love as part of the romance novel arc. And so in this story, Addison, who's the heroine, has sort of a pre-existing relationship with the hero. They've been friends for a long time. They're now business partners, and they had one night of passion together a couple of years ago that didn't end quite so well, especially for the heroine. So all of this stuff is, it kind of comes to me often just as I'm thinking, as I'm typing out, whatever pops into my head, I jot down into this section. And again, as I'm writing the book, I refine that section so that I understand the characters a little bit deeper in terms of where they've come from a love standpoint. At this point, I also add in other backstory information. So this might be just other things that have happened to the character that don't kind of fit into any of the other categories. And I often will put in this section, you know, what's their education level? What did they study? Did they go to college or university or TAFE if they're Australian characters? Did they finish high school? Were they a good student, bad student? All of that kind of stuff. I also add in extra details like any hobbies that might have influenced them, any trips that they might have taken or experiences that they've had that have really shaped them to who they are. This is kind of just a bit of a catch-all area. I also make a note of really bad things that have happened to shape the character. So in Addison's case, this was losing her father a couple of years ago, and it was also losing some power to the hero when he took over her father's role in the company rather than her father giving it to her. So these are some things that she has sort of taken as negative experiences, but that they have really affected the way that she deals with things and who she is as a person. So stuff that you might include in this section could be any childhood traumatic events, any sort of friendship breakups. So I know we talked about relationship history before, but friendship history can be equally important. You can put that kind of stuff in here. Getting fired from a job, or not getting something really important that they wanted, missing out on an opportunity. Any of those kind of things that have shaped them from a negative standpoint are good to jot down here, because you may find yourself referring to those in the story. So the last part of the character section is all about the character's arc and their journey. So we've set up who the character is at the start of the book, you know, where they're living, what they're doing, what kind of person they are, you know, their views on things. So now we're going to talk about where they need to go in order to be the person that they've got to be at the end of the book, which in a romance novel is someone that is accepting of themselves and is open to a committed relationship. So some of the things that I put here are, what is the thing that they fear most in the world? So for Addison, it's that she'll never live up to her full potential because her father was very protective, and he in some ways squashed her dreams a little bit with very good intentions. He wanted her to kind of be safe from this dangerous world that he lived in, but to her that's affected her by kind of holding her back. And then she has similar issues with the hero, who's a very overprotective kind of character, and because he's taken her father's place, feels that there's some obligation to continue protecting her. And so she feels stifled, and so her fear is that she's never going to be able to break free of that and be the person that she really wants to be. So I also put down what their secret wish is. So what is the thing that they inside that they would maybe never share with anyone, but that they secretly hope for? What is their critical flaw? So for Addison, it's that she's competitive to a fault and that she's stubbornly independent. So sometimes for her that means it's hard to accept help because she's so hell-bent on being her own person that sometimes she kind of can't see the forest for the trees, if that makes sense. The other thing that I go through here is the character's GMCs. So this is a topic that is warranted of a whole series of videos, so I'm only really going to be scratching the surface of it today. But GMC stands for goal, motivation, and conflict. Now, characters need to have these in order to be able to achieve something in the book, and then I often give them an external GMC and an internal GMC. So the external GMC is usually related to the external plot in the book. So in Mr. Dangerously Sexy, Addison is wanting to strike out on her own, start her own business, but she's also being chased by a stalker. So her external plot surrounds those two things, but her internal plot is more about her learning to be her own person and be independent, but also be open to a loving relationship as well. So there's two slightly different things. So I've given her a goal for both of those things, a motivation for both of those things, and a conflict for both of those things. So what I might do is just read through the external one, just to kind of give you an example. So her external goal is to find out who the stalker is. Okay, and her motivation is pretty simple. It's because she wants to be safe and she doesn't want to be stalked. Her conflict is that her tension with the hero Logan makes it hard for her to accept his help, even though his expertise will help her achieve that goal. So that's a very kind of simple way of looking at one of the problems that need to be solved in the book. And then as far as her internal goal is that she wants to prove that she can be her own person and that she has what it takes to start up her own company and to be her own boss. Her motivation is that she wants to live up to her father's memory, but she also wants to stop living in other people's shadows. But the conflict is that she feels constantly stifled by the hero because he's trying to protect her. And so then when I get to his GMCs, they will kind of interlock in with hers as well. So I feel like, particularly with romance novels, good stories really happen when the hero and heroine's GMCs are interlinked, okay, and that their conflict are maybe playing off each other. And so then there's a couple of other questions that I tend to ask them in this section as well. So how does the character feel about their job? What are their views on marriage? What are their views on friendship? What personality trait tends to draw other people to them? What's a secret that they've never told someone? And are they happy being themselves? And so this is all, again, helping me to really round out what needs to happen during the course of the book to make that person change and become a better, stronger person. So I basically repeat that entire process for the hero of the novel as well. And so for every book, I have those two character sheets, one for the hero, one for the heroine, with the same information filled out. And that really helps me to dig into their characters so that I can really flesh them out over the course of the book. Now, I feel like this video is really running long, so I think what I'm going to do is stop it there and film the next part now, but I'm probably going to split them into two videos just because I don't want you to feel like you're going to be sitting here all day listening to me talk. But I really hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you're finding the series helpful. Thanks again to all the wonderful people who've messaged me over the course of the last couple of months. I really do appreciate it, and I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!